Hi everyone, I'm Stuart Flint from Flint Analytics. Now, I've been doing a series of videos on the lessons that I've learned from the last 20 years. And in today's episode, I'm going to go through why I think you need to create your own life story. And I'm going to delve into why I think John Burroughs' quote of "leap and the net will appear" is especially true. Now, I had my first job in Scorex, at Scorex in Bradford, and whilst I was there, I met a girl from Australia, and she started then turning her attentions to moving back to Brisbane. And I had been open to moving abroad in my career aspirations that I talked to Scorex about. I had said that I did see myself moving out of the UK in a certain period of time, and they had different joint ventures around the world that was something that they thought I might be able to take advantage of. And so I had been open to that idea, and so when the opportunity came to go to Brisbane, I took it. And as part of, I guess, a farewell tour, I went back to Liverpool, where I'd been to university, and had a night out with two best friends from those times, and that night went tragically wrong. Those two friends, Bob and Chris was hit by a car that night, and tragically 2 days later the life support machine had to be turned off. And I have horrific memories from that night, from the event itself to the aftermath, to to having to ring friends to tell them the news, and then funeral arrangements and those sorts of things. And really there is a contrast there to, we were reminiscing that night about the good fun times that we'd had, but we were also lamenting that they were going to be fewer moving forward. But we obviously didn't realise just how fewer we meant that would be it for us. That was one of our journeys coming to an end. And the aftermath was very, very hard for Bob and I, in terms of how we coped with it, and how we kind of rebuilt our ability to talk to each other. I remember one weekend where he came to stay in Leeds, and we virtually didn't really speak about anything meaningful that weekend. But we were able to do that, and unfortunately he tragically died 3 years later. And I guess there's no easy way of going through something like that, where two of your friends die at such a young age. But it happens a lot to a lot of people. But probabilistically, you are watching this video and you've had more days than they had. They died at 23 and at 26. Or if you're younger than that, it's really, you're much more likely to live to a ripe old age. But the key thing here is that we just don't know. And one of the books that I read, or one of the authors I read a lot in the aftermath of that, was John Irving. And one of John Irving's points as a writer, he says, we are all terminal cases. And what he means by that is that we're all going to die. And he speaks about it in terms of a writer's obligation is to almost tell you how every character, what their life story is. He doesn't want to leave open ends to a character that you don't know what happens to that character afterwards. So, bringing that back, there's been a huge pressure on me, and I'm probably it's guilt, to say, well, I got more time than they got, and therefore what am I going to do with it? And that is pressure. It's day-to-day pressure, and it's day-to-day pressure for me to, make me still being here worthwhile. If they can't be. But I think what I really would encourage if you're listening to this going, oh, that sounds horrible, but I guess, do you need the event of a loved one passing, or yourself having an accident, or whatever it might be? Do you need that event to change the way you're going to live your life and to make sure you're proactively choosing what you're going to do? Or can you do that today? Before that thing happens, and hopefully it doesn't, but before anything bad happens, take these days that you have, however many there are of them, and make sure that you're proactive about what you want to do. And I guess since then I've been making some really big career choices around, what I've done. I've not gone with the flow. Recently my family and I have moved to Adelaide, and we've started again down here. And that was exactly for those proactive, what do we want out of life? What kind of lifestyle do we want? Those sorts of things. And so that's been huge for us. And it's been huge for me that I've made proactive decisions through my life. But if there is a lesson, do we need that bad event to happen to create a sense of not urgency or pressure or whatever? There's some negative words, but almost like the opportunity to go, am I doing what I want to do right now, today? Don't walk into a job on a Monday going, oh, why am I going into this? I don't want to go into this job. I want it to be the weekend every day. Think about how you can proactively change your life for the better. Through some of those changes that I mentioned, I think about John Burroughs' phrase of leap and the net will appear. And this was something my wife sent to me. And it was just after leaving a job and having a bit of a career break. But I think it encompasses the time of me actually moving to Brisbane pretty well, in that, the net can be a whole heap of things. So in the case of moving to Brisbane, the thing I didn't have was a job, but it was my network that helped me. So Yanni, who worked at Scorex, knew somebody from his time in South Africa who worked now in Melbourne. That person in Melbourne had a client in Brisbane, and that was the introduction I needed to be able to get into the workforce in Brisbane. And so for that time, it was my network that appeared. But I think the thing that with any change is that it's the not being committed to it doesn't force you into creative thinking. So when you commit to a decision, when you start telling people about it, your subconscious brain will find ways to just look around for opportunities, but also some of those limiting behaviors where you just go, well, I don't deserve that, or I can't do that, or when you actually make the leap, you then yourself need to do that, and that creates the net that appears and helps you make that change. So there are a couple of things I wanted to share with you today, and really, look, if you've got any comments on the video, anything about how you yourself made a positive change in your life, anything where you didn't just go with the flow, I'd be really interested to hear it below. And maybe some stories about how the net appeared for you. So thank you.